We're getting into it again?
Yeah, we are.
Alrighty. Welcome to the Way of the Mandaeans podcast, a podcast for everybody, from the devout believers to the curious skeptics, where we tackle the hard topics in the Mandaean community.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting one because there's a lot of topics and they can get quite touchy and we are going to push some buttons. But we're going to be discussing between ourselves and we're also going to have people over eventually.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to be covering all the topics in our Mandaean faith and our Mandaean culture, the history, the modern day situation in our community, the problems that we're facing, and we're going to look at not just the problems, but how we can bridge these obstacles and where we're going into the future. So strap in because it's a podcast with a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah. So, I think, see, the first thing we wanted to touch base on is culture because this is significant.
Yes.
As we said, it's not just going to be religious, and this episode is primarily going to be based around culture. And the main difference... Mandaean culture.
Yeah.
More specifically. Or what's left of it, at least. Okay, because that on its own is a whole issue.
Yes.
Should we start right at the beginning?
What is it? I'm asking you. What is it? What's Mandaean culture?
Well, what it should be is a bunch of music, foods, interactions, way of thinking, perspective of life and family.
What's the difference? Maybe it's good to take a back step. What's the difference between culture and religion? So, broadly speaking, and also in the context of our Mandaean community. What's the difference between Mandaean culture and Mandaean religion? Because for a lot of people, that'll mean something different for everybody.
That's true.
So to set the groundwork, what does it mean for you and me on this episode?
Well, religion is more so the belief in a higher power. Okay? And that'll be comprised of frameworks of morals, ethic behavior, religious practices, ceremonies, beliefs of the afterlife.
Yes.
So that's kind of the religious aspect of it. And it can be a central aspect of identity and also how people view the world. You know what I mean? If you're that religious, then obviously you're going to view life in a certain way and biblically.
Yeah. And then what's the difference between that and culture?
Culture would be more so shared values, beliefs, language, music, foods, traditions, social norms, things that have been passed down from generation to generation, right? Because a lot of our practices aren't religious. It's more so cultural.
Like?
Getting together, having a laugh, the kind of going out with the family, and even inside the household, the hierarchy of the family and how things just kind of operate. Obviously, not every household is the same, but generally speaking, from a Middle Eastern, Mesopotamian background.
We're getting into that, huh?
Getting into that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a big difference between the pair.
Okay. So then, I'm doing your head in on this a little bit, but I just want to knuckle down. So then what's the difference, again, in your opinion, what's the difference between our culture and our values and other, our Mesopotamian or Middle Eastern neighbors?
Well,
what separates us from them? Obviously, without upsetting anybody.
Yeah. Well, look, it actually crosses the barrier. We share a lot of our traditions, values, our culture.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? A lot of it's the same. And that doesn't just go for culture, it also goes across for religion. So that also influences the way we think, the way we talk, the way we kind of act and interact with other people. So it does cross the barrier. There isn't always massive differences. Sometimes it's more so they're extremely related.
I agree. I think there are a lot of similarities to draw between our values and the values of our Mesopotamian neighbors. We come from Iraq and Iran as a Mandaean community, so the majority of our neighbors would be the relevant Islamic populations,
Yeah.
both Shia and Sunni,
Yeah.
as well as, I mean, both Iraq and Iran are two countries with just a heap of different religion and cultures. So you've also got in there the Assyrians and the Chaldeans.
Yeah.
You have in Iran, you've got the people of Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
You also have the Kurds, who a lot of, I'm not sure about Iran, but I know in Iraq, a lot of Mandaeans moved to the north in Kirkuk.
Yeah.
So there was that cultural interaction with the Kurdish culture
Yeah.
as well. So, I mean, they're too numerous to name. So naturally, we do have some similarities with those groups. And I just think that as beautiful as those cultures are, it's also important to have our own.
Yeah.
And I don't really feel like we have our own at the moment. Because if we use the criteria that you just said, so for example, the culture is language, the culture is music, the culture is cuisine.
We are lacking. We have shush.
We have a shush. We have a shush. Right? Food-wise, I think we're set on that front.
Yeah.
Other things, though, language.
That's a big one. That's massive.
We speak Arabic. I mean, I speak Arabic.
So do I.
You speak Arabic as well. I don't know if you speak Farsi or you understand it.
No, not really.
None?
No.
There are people in our community that also speak and understand Farsi by way of growing up in Iran. Or just not even growing up in Iran, just growing up in a household. Yeah, a Persian household.
Yeah.
And that means that there's no really room for our language. Because you'll see this now, especially in the modern day, everybody wants an identity. People want to be unique.
Yeah.
And maybe it's changed from the days of 30, 40 years ago where it was, you were vilified for being ethnic. Now it's changed. It's cool to be ethnic.
Yeah.
It's cool to have your own little language, your own food. So naturally, I feel like the young people of today's age, they gravitate towards looking for a culture. They want to identify with a culture.
Yeah.
Because when they come out, they want to say, I am, fill in the blank. If you have Arabic or Iraqi or Persian filling in that gap, there's no need to replace it with anything else. There's no need to replace it with Mandaean. I'm Iraqi. We've seen this.
Yeah.
I'm Iraqi. I speak Arabic. Why should I learn Mandaic? And you'll hear this from the parents as well.
Yeah, they'll say, where would they use it? How would they benefit from it?
That's exactly right. Yeah. You know, the kid, I've seen this. Kids go up to their parents. Mama, Baba, I want to learn Mandaic. Luesh. We speak Arabic in this household. Believe it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Or, I mean, I'm sure this happens on the Persian side as well. But that's what I've seen personally with Arabic.
Yeah.
And so it comes back to this question, which is, why do we need the language?
As you said, people want to identify with something.
Yep.
And if it's not their own, they're going to gravitate to something else. The language is kind of an anchor. Although many don't view it that way.
I like that.
Yeah. Many don't view it that way because they'll tell you, well, Emil, we've come this far and we haven't used it and we don't really need it. We're still going without it. That's all fun and games until you want to go get baptized or something and then your sheikh doesn't know what to say because he's forgot.
I think that's a bit different though.
It is.
Because they have to study it as a prerequisite to become a tarmida.
That's true.
Yeah.
See, another thing is, all the tarmidas, almost all of them, they'll come from extremely religious households.
Yes.
And that way they'll get into the religion.
Yes.
For anyone that's outside of a religious household and that wants to eventually become a halali or something,
yeah,
it's going to be twice as hard for them.
This comes to a very important point that I wanted to touch on, is that the language at the moment is a liturgical language.
Mm-hmm. By that, you mean?
Religious.
Yeah.
It's used for religious ceremonies.
Yeah.
Okay.
pretty much exclusively.
That's exactly right. And so that's like, for example, like, you know, in a good example is Islam. So in Islam, their liturgical language is Arabic. So when they pray, they have to do their salat in Arabic.
Yeah.
There are a few small fringe groups that have a different philosophy regarding this point, but they're definitely in the minority. The majority of the Islamic community, when they pray, they have to pray in Arabic.
Yeah.
That's their liturgical language. Now imagine you have someone who's of Italian descent. They want to go learn Arabic so that they can become a news correspondent in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And they tell them, oh, well, to learn the Arabic language, you have to learn about the Islamic religion as well. Well, that person's going to say, I love and I respect the Islamic faith, but I just want to learn Arabic for my job.
Yeah.
And they said, the point I'm trying to make is that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
right? That's like, and now parallel that with us, it's like, okay, I want to learn Mandaic. Oh, you have to learn the religion.
Yeah. I can see.
What about people who are not religious?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have a facility for people to learn the language in a colloquial fashion,
Yeah.
day to day, conversational, just how you and I speak, like the Assyrians.
Look, back in time, there was something called scripture in primary school. I'm pretty sure they've completely wiped that out now.
No,
It's nowhere to be seen.
no, it's still around.
Is it?
Yeah, they do Mandaean scripture down the road at one of the primary schools.
Yes, in this school, correct. Because most Mandaeans are around here. But for instance, I went to and they used to do it.
We're gonna blip that out. Yeah,
But now, I'm extremely sure that they don't do it. And that was very beneficial for a lot of people. For instance, I was put in the Assyrian class.
oh wow, they had an Assyrian class.
Yeah, they had
That's
an Assyrian
crazy.
class.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah. Look, it's in that kind of
Leave
Wetherill
that
Park
again.
area.
But yeah,
So
yeah, the Wetherill Park area. Yeah,
it was very beneficial for him. I was there. I didn't know nothing. I was scribbling. I go to, I don't know these letters. She goes, I go, put me in Spanish. She goes, oh, you don't know Spanish either. I go, yeah, but it's English letters. I know what I'm doing. Most of the time, I would copy the question in the answer box.
Yeah,
And it's always a zero. Just get me out of here.
Yeah.
But what if we had that for Mandaeans?
I agree.
And especially in Mandaeans, like, okay, they do it here in Liverpool, amazing. But in most other schools, or there should be a program that we can put in place
Yep.
with the help of the government to be able to kind of facilitate some type of education for those that want to learn
We
in school.
We actually just recently got some help from the government in this regard.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give too many details because it's not my place to give details, and some of the guests that we want to have on are actually the people who have been involved in organising this.
Okay, wow.
So I'd rather we hear it from them than I kind of give a brief recount of it. But we have recently secured some assistance from the government in teaching our language to the young kids in our community, which I reckon is excellent.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
so
amazing.
good, and it's a product and a virtue of us living in Australia.
No, we've been very fortunate.
Extremely.
Some people aren't so lucky living internationally. In the
Yeah.
European countries, it's very
And
hard to get support
yeah,
for minorities.
that's exactly right. And I think to jump back to the culture point, language is, I think it's good to break it down. Culture is made up of different elements: language, food, dress. The multiple history is another big one.
Yeah.
Now, the cornerstone of all of these is the language. That is the cornerstone of any culture, is the language.
I can agree on that.
Why is it the cornerstone? Because every time you speak that language, you reinforce to yourself, I am an individual who is part of a constituency, a broader group of unique individuals. Let's take an example. our good friends, the Assyrians.
Yeah.
Every time they speak Surah between one another, or their parents speak Surah to them, or they speak Surah to their kids, or they go out to the wedding, or they jump in the car and they put on Assyrian music and they hear their language, it subconsciously reinforces in the back of their brain, I am Assyrian.
Yeah.
I am part of a unique group of people with a unique culture, a unique set of values, and a unique history, and I am proud to be an individual of this constituency.
Yeah.
That's where the language comes in our community. If you and I speak Mandaic, it constantly reinforces in our mind, we are Mandaic. That's why the majority of Assyrians will not come out and say, I'm Iraqi, or I'm Iranian, or I'm Assyrian. I'm Syrian.
Yeah.
Because there are Assyrians in Syria.
Yeah.
They'll say, I am Assyrian.
Yeah. And for the longest time, and I thought that's kind of taking away from them being from Iraq. And I thought, man, you're from Iraq, just say you're from Iraq. You know
I
what
agree.
mean? But then I really learned the value of that. Because it holds their people in time. Do you know what I mean?
That's such a good way of putting it. It holds their people in time. It
preserves
identifies them and who they are and the value of their history and their culture.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like, I think this is going to be something that we get pushback on. So I'm calling it here first.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of people who still come out and they say Assyrians should say that they are Iraqi or Iranian. So, I mean, I don't think we really took a side on that point, but don't be surprised if we get some pushback on that point.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. But
That's what it is.
The point I'm trying to make is that's how they do it.
Yeah.
Be it right or wrong,
Yeah.
right? That's what they do. That's how their community works and operates. And that's how they pass their culture down. It's how they pass their values down. It's how they pass their language down. I think our community is lacking in that aspect.
Look, it's a tough one to tackle, right? People will say, okay, so where do we go from here?
That is an excellent question. Where do we go from here?
Funding's a big thing. Okay, now you're saying that funding's coming in.
You got blank check, let's say. What do you do with it?
First thing what I'd want to do is find some individuals within the community that are actually passionate about learning the language, all right? And ideally they'll be still in high school. And that way we can actually pay for their education, university level education, for them to become teachers in the Mandaic language. Because it's all good and well when someone that's learned it, religious person and whatnot, they're teaching you, but at the end of the day, they're not certified teachers. They don't know the techniques of teaching and how to kind of bridge that gap across to you and tell you the information in a particular way where you'll actually understand it. Okay, there aren't really any designated teachers. I think that's the right word. So if you have designated teachers, and that's their profession, that's what they get paid for, I can guarantee you the language will come back very quickly. Very quickly.
Hot take. Hot take. Yeah. How quickly?
You know what? They say the ages from...
You're on camera. We're going to hold you to this answer. Whatever you say.
Okay. They say from the years 1 to 8.
Give ages, because years 1 to 8 is the Australian system. We might have viewers, international viewers, Mandaeans from other countries.
No, this is not for Australian specific.
Hold on, sorry. Wait, do you mean age 1 to 8?
Yeah, age 1 to 8.
Oh, I thought you meant like grade 1 to grade 8 in school.
No.
Sorry.
No.
From ages 1 to 8, yes.
From ages 1 to 8 are the most crucial ages for learning. Okay, I think we can agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
That is when kids are absolute sponges.
Yeah.
Okay, if you really wanted to, you can make them learn.
Sorry to cut you off. The general psychological consensus is that 70% of your personality is formed within the first 7 years of your life.
There you go, 7 years. That's what I've heard as well.
Yeah.
So they say, give me a boy and I'll make him into a man. That 7 year period, that's how influential, as you said. That's how influential that is. So if, for instance, you have a Mandaean preschool, that's not that crazy.
I don't think that's a crazy concept, no.
It's not a crazy concept.
No, it's not.
You know what I mean? Especially when, if you do a concept really well and you're able to pitch it to the right people, we have plenty of wealthy Mandaeans in our community. And they're more than happy to donate their money for a good cause. As long as it's an actual cause, it's got a strong foundation.
It gets results.
There is a vision.
Yep.
And it's transparent.
Transparency is big.
It's massive.
Yep.
Okay, so establishing a preschool, the parents don't need to know Mandaean. Your kids will now learn Mandaean. That whole next generation will learn Mandaean. Okay? That, I think, is a really great first step. And then from then on, you could have all around the schools, you can have one teacher per maybe 5 schools. Once a week, that teacher will go to this school and teach them for that class. And she's already building on what they have. She's not going from scratch.
Yeah. I think that's the start. That's the foundation.
Yeah.
And then the kids will start speaking between themselves as they grow up.
Yeah.
As well. Naturally.
Of course.
Naturally. But I think you do need to kind of surround them in an environment where they are with other Mandaic speakers. Because with language, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah. Yeah. A big part of that, and something that helps, is the groups and organizations that are, for instance, within Australia, because this is specific to us.
Yep.
One of them is the youth.
Yeah.
There's the Mandaean youth group, and they've been amazing at setting up events. So they get youth together. That's an environment where people are around each other, and it can start small, just by, instead of greeting each other, "Hey Habibi, how are you?"
Oh, man, I said this the other day to one of our mates. I don't know if I'll bring him up on camera because I don't know if he wants to be mentioned. He's a bit shy. I said to him, I just want to change small things. Like when we walk into the Mendi, which we're recording from today, by the way.
Yes.
When we walk into the Mendi, assalamu alaikum. I want to see Asutana Wilkhon.
Yeah.
Not assalamu alaikum. Yeah. I want to see, when you ask people, "How you doing, bro? How's life?" I don't want to hear alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
I want to hear farwahan mari, man, we're doing well.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be, you don't have to bust out in song in Mandaic.
No, but it's those small things.
Yeah. And speaking of song,
There are no songs.
there are no songs.
Well, look, there is a couple, but no offense to anyone
That made those songs because they might get upset.
No, look, they're good for their purpose. I feel like they're way more choir-like. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's like when I listen to them, I go, that's very choir-esque. It's not like a put it on at a party song, sing along to song.
No.
It's not one of those.
It's not.
And just to go back to...
I don't know which ones you've heard, but I'm going from the ones I've heard. They are not.
Just to go back to what you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that mean?
That's a good question. Okay. So to give some context as to where I come from and how I got to this point. So I recently started learning Mandaic on my own.
Yeah.
Why?
Challenging, I assume?
Yes. Yes. But someone has to take the first step.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I created for myself like flashcards. I don't know if I showed you.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. That's how I study it, because I put the Mandaic text on the front, and then on the back is the English translation, and then I just put that on my phone and I study when I'm on the train going to work or whatever. So that's how it started.
Yeah.
I think it's super important, and so I've had the pleasure of learning little bits and phrases. I'm by no means fluent yet. I don't even think I'm close to it. But the reason why I bring all of this up is because another part of this about who I am is I'm not a very religious person.
Yeah.
I was atheist up until about a year and a half ago. Staunchly atheist.
Yeah.
Debate anybody. Things happen in life, your opinion changes.
Yeah. Something made you click?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Is that something you want to share, or maybe...
Yeah, but maybe on a different episode.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's that. So I said, okay, and then you see when you start learning the language and you learn little words here and there, you go to the Mendi, you go to Bracha, and words that we've heard before, you start to recognize them. Or when I go to Bracha, and I stand there and I read, it's the same sign, I've seen it a million times already.
Yeah.
But after I learn how to read, not surprising, that's what it says, but it's nice to be able to read it.
Yeah, because
Like,
now you actually understand it.
I can read it and say, oh, you look over there, what does that say? Bishmehun Tayy Rabbi. Okay, I've looked at that a million times, I've never been able to read it. Now I can read it.
Yeah.
Okay. To come back to your question, Asutha Nahwilkhun, it means purity, which is Asutha.
Yeah.
Nahwilkhun is upon you to the group.
Yeah.
Nahwilach for a singular male. Nahwilach for a singular female. So that's more colloquial.
Yeah.
But if you're entering a room and you just want to greet everybody, Sutha Nahwilkhun, and then the reply is Swatha Dheyi Nahwilach, which is the purity, Swatha, Adheyi, of Heyi, Nahwilach, be upon you. So you say to the person, purity be upon you, and the person replies, may the purity of Heyi be upon you.
Yeah.
And this comes from a phrase that's very commonly used in our religion, Asutha wa Zakutha.
Yeah.
So commonly used, with Asutha being purity.
Yeah.
Zakutha has quite a broad meaning, and I haven't really been able to knuckle down on exactly what it means yet, truth be told.
That's interesting.
I've heard it used as healing,
Yeah.
and then from other sources, I've heard it means victory. So I'm going to go off on my own little tangent theory and say it means something in between. Yeah. But it's Asutha wa Zakutha, so purity and healing, or purity and victory.
Okay.
And you'll see, actually, people who are strong in Mandaic, when they want to do a more formal greeting, so you know how in Arabic they say Assalamu alaikum,
Yeah.
or if they want to do the full formal greeting, they say Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Yeah.
That's that's the most formal, which is what they say when they come out on the news in the Arabic countries. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah wa barakatuh. In Mandaic, they say, Asutha Nahwilkhun, but you'll see the people that are more advanced, they have a better understanding of Mandaic, they'll say, Asutha wa Zakutha Nahwilach.
Okay.
So they'll say purity and healing upon you. Asutha wa Zakutha Nahwilach.
Yeah.
So because they're good at Mandaic, they want to flex, or they want to give you more blessings when they say hi to you, they add that part on top.
So that's how you can differentiate between someone who just knows a couple words and someone who's a bit more hardcore.
Oh, yeah, I don't know how much you want to try them, because if they start speaking to you in Mandaic, you're not going to know.
No.
But, I mean, what we were talking about before with the music,
Yeah.
we have such a rich musical history as a community, the Mandaic community. If you go to Iraq, we were speaking about this the other day.
Yeah.
If you go to Iraq, you'll find that there's a maqam. A maqam is the Middle Eastern equivalent of a scale. Yeah. So in music you have scales. In Arabic they call it al-maqamat, the scales. Pretty much the same thing. If you go to Iraq, you will find there's a maqam in Iraq called maqam al-sabba.
Okay.
It's ours.
Yep.
If you want to go and get training in Iraqi classical singing at any musical academy in Iraq, one of the requisite maqamat that you will have to learn is maqam al-sabba. Because not only is it Mandaic, it's also difficult.
Okay, wow.
So it's often used as a display of the singer's mastery of his voice. If he can if he can do maqam al-sabba, he's the cream of the crop.
He's got the PhD in music, huh?
And it's not just Mandaeans who sing in maqam al-sabba.
Yeah,
famous Iraqi singers, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Hussein Ni'mah is the most famous Iraqi singer who used to sing at maqam al-sabba. There's others as well, but that's the one that I'm familiar with. Old singer from like the 60s and 70s, right? But he goes out and does it. But like it's maqam al-sabba, the notes are of a Mandaic origin. So the notes are from maqam al-sabba, but the words that they speak are Arabic.
Yeah.
They're singing in the maqam al-sabba style, in Arabic.
So we have more people outside of our community utilizing.
It's part of the Iraqi culture. Amazing. Sorry it cut out, guys. We had a technical difficulty.
Yeah.
But what we were talking about before it cut out was maqam al-sabba.
Yeah.
The point I was trying to make is maqam al-sabba is sang in Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
How nice would it be to have maqam al-sabba, our style, sang in Mandaic?
Yeah.
You got our brothers, the Assyrians. I always say to them, like, I love their music.
Yeah.
I love their music. I listen to it personally. But I always tell them, like, I love your music, but it makes me envious. Right? Which envy is it's not a good emotion to have.
Yeah.
And not maybe envious isn't the right word to use. But I say, man, when are we gonna have that? They go into the car, they plug the aux in.
It creates a bit of a hole.
Julian agenda, and their music's good, man. It's fun.
Yeah.
When are we gonna have that? I want to go to the car. I want to listen to Mandaean music. Put the windows down. Do some Mandaic trance.
Yeah. Look, that's.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, cause all kinds of genres.
Mandaic techno.
We can tackle it all.
Yeah, and I think the point that you were making when the camera cut out.
Yeah.
So we'll bring it back onto the camera. Is you were saying that comes after you bring the language back.
Correct.
And I couldn't agree more. I feel like it's a tiered approach. Tier 1 being you bring the language back.
Yeah.
Tier 2 being you rediscover the language in the arts.
Yeah.
As a community, we love the arts.
Yeah.
We have like famous poets in our community. There was a lady, I believe she's passed away now. Allah yarhamha. She was from Iraq, moved to the United States.
Yeah.
Lamia Abbas Amara.
Okay.
She is like a renowned poet in Iraq. Her poetry is like, even when she went to the United States, she was still doing poetry readings.
Yeah, right.
Like she'll fill out a hall and have people come and hear her speak.
In English or in Arabic?
بالعربي.
Okay.
Arabic.
Yeah.
But renowned, and what I'm trying to say is we love the arts.
Yeah.
We love the poetry. We love the writing and the reading and the singing. If we were a community that didn't care about that stuff, I would say maybe we're to dead end here. But Mandaeans, they have a genuine love for the arts. It's something inside of them. They love it.
Yeah.
So that is what leads me to my question, which is like, if you guys have such a genuine love for this topic, for the arts, the language, the way words are used, why don't you do it in your language? How beautiful is that? To explore that art, to be an artist with your ancestral language, the language of your ancestors. Yeah. For me, maybe other people don't feel the same way, but for me, that's so beautiful.
I agree. Man, it's thousands and thousands of years of heritage.
Yeah.
So carrying it with you should be a symbol of pride. You know what I mean? Just how prideful the Assyrians are. Man, I'm Syrian.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
They're proud.
Yeah.
They are proud.
And so should we.
Yeah.
We should be as well. You know what I mean? We've got a lot of...
This actually comes to another topic, I guess. It kind of links in with another topic.
Which is?
Why don't we have that in our community? The pride aspect.
I can tell you why. Well, this is my opinion. Okay, just a disclaimer.
Yeah.
I think it is because we grew up in countries where we ended up being the minority, regardless of us being indigenous.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on this point. I'm telling you from now.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And it got to a stage where you can't be yourself. You can't say you're Mandaean. It's a matter of fact. A lot of Mandaeans, till this day, carry names not of Mandaic religion. Okay? And that wasn't because, they liked that name. It was because they were scared for their children to be almost...
Different.
It's not different. It's to be almost castrated. Okay? To be bullied. And they'll bring negative attention to themselves. Okay? And there's plenty of stories that me and you have shared out off camera about the difficulties our Mandaean people have had, whether it's acquiring jobs, living in a certain place, or even just working. Okay, there's a reason why Mandaeans are majority goldsmiths. Okay, that's a thing on its own.
Yeah.
But I feel like it got to a stage where we lost our pride to say we're Mandaean because you could get crucified for saying you're Mandaean.
Okay, so with the devil's advocate point, how come we ended up like that, whereas other minorities did not? And again, coming back to the same example, the Assyrians.
Look, the Assyrians might be a minority, but they're a majority compared to us. They're a majority compared to us. Think about it. Okay, if you compare the Assyrians to American population, it's a different story. But
what's the difference between a minority and a majority? Because in the country of Iraq, however way you spin it, Assyrians are a minority. They were and they are.
There's still enough of them. And they're less spread out. They usually tend to obviously flock together. Okay? So they've kept themselves alive that way.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, okay.
Don't forget, we are less than 100,000 people. The Assyrians are in the millions.
Yeah, they estimate between 3 and 5?
I'm not sure.
I think closer to under 3, yeah.
Do you think so?
I'm getting confused between their population and the Kurdish population. Sorry, I think the Kurdish population is between 3 and 5, and the Assyrian population worldwide is between 1 and 3 million.
Assyrian population, I reckon it's heaps more.
I'm going to search it up.
Yeah, go for it. And while you do that...
If you don't mind me.
No, of course. I reckon that's why they've kept it up so
Over 5 million?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's immense.
Yeah, it is immense.
That's immense.
Yeah.
Think about it. Man, there's some countries, their whole population is 5 million.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think another part of it also is geography.
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's such a weird topic. It's such a left field topic. But if you'll indulge me,
Yeah.
the geographical region where the Assyrians lived is very different to the geographical region where we lived.
Okay.
Assyrians live in the mountains.
Okay.
Each village, so if you live in the mountains, you're going to put your village in a valley or at the top of the mountain?
Probably the top of the mountain.
Okay. So all of their villages are difficult to get to. That gave them throughout the years some sort of a natural barrier. Unfortunately, it's so tragic, didn't work for them every time.
Yeah.
But it gave them some sort of a barrier.
But do you think that's a big reason?
I think it's massive.
Yeah.
I think it's so big. Because if you compare the mountains in northern Iraq to the marshlands and the plains of southern Iraq,
Yeah.
it's night and day.
No, that's fair enough.
It's night and day. In mountain life, it's not just the Assyrians. In every country, in mountain life, you are generally restricted to your village, your mountain. You don't really... Assyrians, Turks, Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian, Yugoslav countries, all these countries, when you grow up in the mountains, you're restricted to that village.
Yeah.
So you don't really have a fear of what's coming. Because you don't venture out as much, and people don't venture in as much. There's not as much... Should have clapped next to the camera. There's not as much cultural interaction.
Yeah, that's fair enough, but...
Look, maybe I'm just...
Another thing you have to take into account that the first civilization was Samaria. Correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. There were as many villages as there are in the mountains. The majority of people would be in a decent sized civilization.
Mm.
That hold it together. I don't think it'll be on the mountains. It'll
No,
be
the
somewhere more accessible.
Sumerian civilization was Mesopotamian,
Yeah.
which Mesopotamia, I believe, is Greek. Mesopotamia is the land, Mesopotamia, between the two rivers.
Yes.
So literally, now it refers to Iraq as a whole.
Yeah.
But
It was a
traditionally,
much-
it refers to that land between the two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, which
Correct.
is where the first civilization started. All the villages were in that little gap.
Yeah.
Some of the most fertile land on earth.
Correct. Now back to what you were saying. Why we don't have that pride anymore?
Yeah. Oh, look. Geography was just a small aspect of it. There's
Yeah.
so many reasons.
Another thing is, the Assyrians had the Assyrian Empire. Okay, so it was a massive empire that spanned, which is now multiple countries.
Yeah. The land mass that it controlled now overlaps in multiple countries. That's
Correct.
first. Second of all, it had multiple periods. There's not one Assyrian Empire. There's three.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There's the Old Assyrian Empire, the Middle Assyrian Empire, and then Neo-Assyrian Empire. Yes, that's correct. The Old, the Middle, and the Neo-Assyrian Empire, and they all, they come for a couple of hundred years, and then it was an ancient rivalry between them and the Babylonians.
Yeah.
So they started, then the Babylonians come in, overthrow them. They come in for a couple of hundred years. Then the Assyrians come back, overthrow them. Assyrians come in for a couple of hundred years. So
It's a back and
there's more than one Assyrian Empire.
See, and I think that's helped them kind of put a stamp on who they are, right? They've got this rich history
Yep.
of crusades, battle, and whatnot. And we don't have that because we're a pacifist people.
I
So-
was just about to touch on that. I think
I think that's how we've stayed out of the limelight.
Yeah. Pacifism in our religion, is it good? Is it bad? It's not my call to make.
Yeah.
What I can tell you for sure, though, is that a great deal of our situation and how we've ended up where we are is because of pacifism.
Yeah. Because we don't really retaliate.
We don't retaliate.
Yeah.
The bearing of arms in our religion is prohibited under any circumstance.
Is it?
Yeah. It's unconditional.
Wow.
It's unconditional. Like, there's no, but, he hit my dog, so there's nothing, there's no justification for it whatsoever.
So not even if there's a home invasion?
Let's clarify here. If someone is going to harm you in real life, fight back. But I'm talking in our religion and historically,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, wow.
Even in, when they what's written in the books is refrain. And actually, this is written in the Ginza, and you can tell that it's put in there to link with our pacifism.
Yeah.
In the Ginza, you can read. There's a bit. I can't remember where it is exactly, but you can read, and it says, if someone comes up to you and he threatens your life, and tells you, say that you're not Mandaean or I'll kill you, you are allowed to say, I'm not Mandaean, provided that in your heart and in your mind you still believe that you're Mandaean.
Okay. There you go.
That is the definition of putting aside your pride. So the root of it is there in our religion. And so with the pacifism, because we knew that that's just something that we don't do. We don't bear arms. We don't train in how to use them. We don't. We are not allowed to.
Look, luckily we're now in a world where, and in a period of time where we don't need to.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
that weakness has been, I would say, for the most part, overcome.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the Mandaeans that are still out there in the Middle East.
They're doing all right.
Oh, look, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know there's been a couple of attacks recently, and we can't really go into those. But
There's things happening.
there's things happening.
Let's just say
so maybe it's a
things
different story for
happening.
them. But luckily, we don't need to resort to that anymore.
No, we don't, and we never have. But I think to tie this arc back into the culture and the language point, because we're not allowed to raise arms and defend ourselves, sword, gun, whatever it is, we kind of just took the approach of, you know what, maybe it's best to not put myself in positions where I could be subject to that kind of violence.
Yeah.
And that way, I just stay out of trouble.
But isn't it incredible that we've lasted
Oh,
despite that?
mate, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The fact that we're here speaking today, you wrap your head around how nuts this is, how crazy this is, that you and I are here on the other side of the world from where we originated from, in Australia, in our Mendi, and we're here recording ourselves, speaking about these topics freely. We've got no fear of who's going to hurt us, of any persecution, of anybody judging us, or anything like that. We can speak our mind and our opinion freely. We can come here and congregate with our fellow youth and our people as we do freely. Yeah. And we're carrying on a tradition which is at least 2,000 years old, if not older. The jury's still out on how old we are, where we originated from, and where we've come from. And that's something that we're going to touch on as well. We're going to bring on different people with differing opinions to kind of get the religious story, the story according to the people that have studied us, the antiquities that have studied us.
And also mentions of us within other cultures.
Yeah, so that's huge.
That'll kind of put a bit of a timestamp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
but the point I'm trying to make is it's wild that we're still existent today. So we should, again, to tie it back, we should celebrate and rejoice. Yeah. Is that not the ultimate celebration? Is that not the ultimate rejoice? And that's what you mean when you say pride. Not pride in that like, oh, I'm Mandaean. No, because we don't like that.
Yeah.
Pride in that it's a celebration, a rejoice of the fact that we're still around and we're still here today, somehow against all odds. We're going to celebrate that. We're going to rejoice in that by speaking our language.
I can agree on that.
Yeah.
And there are steps that are being taken to ensure that we're heading down
It's starting.
Yeah.
It's starting now. I think a big thing of it was mindset. Previously, because people will say, I'm Iraqi, I'm Iranian. Now they've started kind of turning around and saying, I'd like to identify as Mandaic first, rather than Iraqi or Iranian. I am Iraqi, I am Iranian, but I'm Mandaean.
Yeah.
And they're starting to realize the importance of language, also moving to a country where they speak English, like Australia. The need to use Arabic diminishes significantly.
It's almost obsolete. Unless you're working in Fairfield, Liverpool.
Even still.
It's a different story.
Even still. Okay, you use it for 8 hours when you're working. Oh, yeah, marhaba, shonek, whatever. With, let's say, Iraqi Arabic. Marhaba, shonek. Salimni ala flan, salimni ala flan.
Yeah.
And then after that, you go home, you turn on the TV, it's English. You turn on Netflix, it's English. You open your phone, TikTok, whatever, it's all in English. We live in an English world. Like, English is the lingua franca of today.
Yeah.
So Arabic is kind of, its efficacy, its usefulness, I should say, it's kind of diminishing anyway, right? So I think a lot of parents are saying, well, if I should teach my kids any language, I should just teach them Mandaic, because like they'll probably end up having the same amount of use for either language anyway.
Yeah, I can agree on that. You know what I mean? Arabic back then, yeah, sure, very important.
Of course.
But especially now, most of the parents are speaking with their kids English.
Yeah.
And I know plenty of people, their kids can speak nothing but English.
I agree.
Despite their parents being able to speak
Arabic.
Yeah. And some of it even Persian.
Yep.
And I go, what, you guys haven't taught him? No, not really. And if anything, you don't need to teach them English at home. That's something you definitely don't need to.
That's sorted out for you.
That's sorted out.
Yeah.
So the place where Mandaic can come into place is at home. And that can be difficult because the parents themselves don't know Mandaean. But there are things that are being done to breach that gap. For instance, there's a particular lady, she's made a couple of children's books.
Oh, actually?
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Beautiful children's books.
That's amazing.
Really nice colours and everything. And there are more and more shiur going online. They've got their own Instagram accounts.
I've seen that.
Teaching,
it's wild.
And
it's wild.
There's so many accounts out there
now. I never thought I'd see the day where I got Termitas going live on my Facebook. It's mad. It's so good.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you can actually ask them questions and they'll reply to you.
What a world we live in, huh?
I mean, sure, it takes them a bit to type in, but no, look, they're doing plenty good. And more than that, for instance, you told me previously that you've utilized Duolingo. And I said, how good would it be if we had something like that for Mandaean? And
I agree.
that would be coming soon into the future. So,
Oh, mate, I can't wait. Because the point that I was making when we were speaking is, let's say 50% of people have picked up Duolingo to learn a foreign language.
Yeah.
I used it to start learning Spanish.
how'd that go for you?
Muy bien.
Oh,
You like that?
no, but see, it is very helpful.
Oh, mate, when I was in Spain last year,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that I was like, you know, I don't know who's a famous Spanish speaker. I wasn't like Bad Bunny, like, you know, but I got around.
Yeah.
Like, especially when I went to the south. I was in Barcelona initially. They speak English all there. Then I went to the south. I literally got off the train into the south, got into a taxi, wanted to go to my Airbnb, and I go to him, ¿hablas inglés? And he's like, no. I'm like, beautiful. Like,
Time to kick in.
yeah, I'm like,
This is gonna test.
nothing is like, and I can't lie, the things that I learned on Duolingo helped me out a little bit.
There you go.
So, okay, I had a mate who learnt Russian, not Mandaean, Lebanese guy.
Okay.
He's like, bro, he's like, bro, don't laugh at me, but I'm learning Russian. And I was like,
Why?
but also I was like, why would I laugh at you, bro? He's like, there's like Russian songs that I listen to and I like their music, so I want to learn what it means. I was like, fair enough, man.
No, that is fair enough.
That's how I started learning Spanish.
Yeah.
I like their music.
Same.
Yeah. And I was like, and I like the culture as well.
I was actually thinking that might be a pretty easy way to learn a language. For instance, you hear a song, you like the song, and then just
Huge.
by you learning that song,
Yep.
and then slowly understanding it,
That's right. That's
that
massive.
could open up a door.
That's massive. So, for Mandaic, if our people are going and picking up the phone and they want to learn Italian or Spanish or whatever,
they can just as easy.
there's Mandaians going onto Duolingo and using it to learn Arabic.
Yep.
Like Mandaians that have grown up here in English-speaking backgrounds don't really have a strong command of the Arabic language.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think Duolingo is very effective to learn Arabic. But anyway, that's another point. The point I'm trying to make is, if people are doing this anyway, you tell them. There's an app there, you open that up, you do 5-10 minutes every day, you learn a little bit of Mandaic. Who's not gonna download it?
And especially for the kids, I reckon you can create some amazing incentives. You know what I mean? You can tell them, you complete this level, you get an excursion.
Yeah. And the thing is, that will permeate from old to young.
Yeah.
Everyone will use it. From the parents and the grandparents down to the kids.
And using the app is one thing, but then they'll be able to utilize it. So that'll be even better.
Speaking between one another.
Yeah.
Then the individuals who say, because there are these individuals in our community, why are we learning Mandaic? We have Arabic. I had a conversation with an individual. I don't know if I want to bring this up.
Dun dun.
Whatever. I'm not gonna say his name and
Just the context.
just the context. We're having a conversation and I brought up Mandaic language. We should learn it. La-di-da. And he goes, Mandaic is an inferior language.
Wow. And how did he come to that conclusion?
Mate, I go to him, can you elaborate on that one a bit more? And he goes, Mandaic is an incomplete language.
Is that right?
And Arabic is a complete language. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he goes, he started going into that. I didn't agree with his reasoning at all. He was like, have you opened up a Mandaic dictionary? I go, yeah. And he goes, what did you find? I was like, Mandaic words. He's like, didn't you feel like there were words missing? I said, mate, like, you'd be surprised actually. Our language is very comprehensive. There's nothing missing. You open up a Mandaic dictionary, I don't know about everyone else's because there are a couple. The one I've got at home has swear words in it.
Well, there you go.
Translation for swear words.
You know, honestly, growing up, I was told that there's no swear words in Mandaean.
Yeah, well, mate, there are.
That's one way to start getting people to learn it. Just get them
It's
swearing.
bad. It's bad. But 100%.
There you go.
Because you've got, like, if you look at swearing in Arabic, you've got even people who are not from Arabic speaking backgrounds out here in Western Sydney, around where we live, who know how to swear in Arabic.
Correct.
It's very common around this area.
Yeah.
And for a lot of those people, that's how they end up learning Arabic. We've grown up around Assyrians. You know how they swear in Surith. I know how they swear in Surith. I can hear it from a mile away. I've heard it a million times.
Yeah.
Yeah? And it's bad, but you learn other words from the swearing.
Yeah.
Again,
It gets coupled with
because you hear someone say something
and then they add another word onto it.
yeah, and then you go ask this guy, it's like, what does that word mean? And he's like, oh, it means sister. And you're like, oh, wow. But now I know the Assyrian word for sister.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
But the point I'm trying to come to is sometimes swearing, learning swear words in a particular language is the entry level
It's a step. Not the best of steps, but it's a step.
to some people learning the language. Obviously, I'd rather they don't. I'd rather they go about it in other means.
Yeah.
But does the end justify the means? I guess that's a topic for another episode. But I think that actually brings to another point.
Which is?
The use of the Mandaic language in a colloquial context in Iraq, it actually just like sparked my memory. They use particular words.
What do you mean?
Like when people were in trouble in Iraq, or they wanted to hide something, or they don't want other people to know, they use the Mandaic word for it.
Yeah.
Like the Mandaic word for gold, or the Mandaic word for or like
money.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's how they kind of like were able to manage and get around.
Yeah. It's like a bad example. But when Crims in here get in trouble, they'll speak Pig Latin or
that's
some
exactly
other
right.
stuff. Yeah.
And so for us, like even how we say in today. You haven't heard that?
No. Into die.
Inta dai. It means inta mandai.
Dari?
Dai.
Die.
So how it developed is actually, it's wild. So how this developed is developed because they needed to find a way to ask people, are you Mandaean?
Yeah.
But obviously they don't want to do it in a way where they're going to out themselves as Mandaean, because if that person's not Mandaean, then they've just revealed to themselves that they're Mandaean. And historically, a lot of Mandaeans didn't like doing that.
Yeah.
So they wanted to find a way to ask Mandaeans, are you Mandaean, without revealing themselves. So what they used to ask is inta dai. If the other person is Mandaean, they'll say to me, ana dai.
Yeah.
If the person is not, they'll be like, obviously the first thing they're gonna say is, huh?
Do you know?
The Mandaian person will swap it. Oh, قلت تريد شاي? He'll act like it was a slip of the tongue
Yeah.
and brush it off. He'll act like he just had like a moment. No, قلت تريد شاي. Sorry, ما طلعت عدل. And then they'll just shift the conversation somewhere else.
There you go.
So to the non-Mandaic person, they're like, I have no idea what the hell happened there. Whatever is wrong with him, he's not taking his meds these days.
Yeah.
But for Mandaians, that's how they ask them. Inta dai? And they still use it to today.
I utilize different phrases.
Yeah.
So one of them is Sofa lik rastani bisha.
Yeah, brother. If you said that in front of me, you'd see the question marks on top of my
Really?
of my head. I swear.
You don't know what that means?
What the hell does that mean?
That one's pretty common.
What is it?
Sofa lik rastani bisha.
I know the first word.
Which is what?
Sofa.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means like
Yeah.
hit the legs, cause like.
Like stop
Yeah.
talking. Sofa lik, I think is the continuation, right? So stop talking. This guy's a foreigner. Lastani bisha. Lastani bisha. Or you can also say mishmani. Mishmani is not from me, right? Mishmani. That was my understanding of it.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, mishmani. Right?
Yeah.
And sofalika is like, don't talk this. Bro, I said it to, mind you, most of my relatives are very familiar with sofa or sofalika.
Yeah.
Sofalika might mean get out of here. All I know is the sofa part.
Look, at the end of the day, I think as a podcast, we're going to have more chopping and changing and cutting out.
Yeah.
I think now's a good time to address it.
Yeah.
Because we are a community in a precarious position.
Yeah.
Not where we are, but internationally.
Yeah.
We always have been.
Mm.
We don't really have the means to defend ourselves because that's not part of our culture. So I think there will be chopping and changing because when we speak from our experience.
Mm.
But unfortunately, not all of our experiences can be spoken about.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? You don't give the 100%.
Yeah.
Because our experience sometimes, even though it's your experience, other people might not take it well.
It's not just that, it's because it's not just Mandaean viewership.
And it's not just Mandaean, that's exactly right. It's not just Mandaean viewership. So we don't want to say things and do things and go on topics and tangents that non-Mandaeans are going to watch and they're going to be like,
Yeah.
I have no idea what these blokes are on about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's also that to keep in mind as well. But look, at the end of the day, the point that we were trying to make is that there is an existence of Mandaean phrases
Yeah.
in kind of colloquial use, but it was for more of like a protective purpose or a safety purpose previously, as opposed to any kind of communication.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I think moving forward, the question is all on where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
We should be mindful.
Be mindful.
Yeah.
I mean, like language-wise.
Language-wise,
What's the play? What's the go?
keep trying to expand and teach people.
Yeah, I think.
That's the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I
if,
think-
if there's someone with a platform that, like, for instance, we know people that are actually in the works of putting together applications, mobile applications, for you to, one, learn Mandaic, as if it was on Duolingo, and second,
Those language apps have been massive. So if we can replicate something like that, and you get people chatting and
yeah, no, and especially if you do prizes and you give some type of incentive, it'll catch on very quickly, right?
I
The
agree.
key is incentives. Another thing is also the Ginza is arguably the most important book that we have. Okay, and yet, I'll be honest with you, I can't understand the English version. It's as simple as that, and I'm very sure a lot of our viewers would also agree and say, yeah, you know what, it's very complex. It's written in almost Shakespearean language, and it's been translated 3-4 times. Okay, the first translation, just so you guys know, was in German.
that's correct.
Yeah, and then Arabic,
Yeah.
and then English.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming the translation was from Arabic to English and not directly, actually, it was from Arabic to English and not directly from Mandaic to English. So there's a lot of gaps
You reckon?
in between. Yeah, 100%. I actually know one of the boys, a good friend of ours.
Yeah.
I'll leave his name off the script.
Yeah.
He goes, my uncle was working on translating it
Yeah,
from
I know what you're talking
Mandaic
about.
to English. Now, I'm not sure what's the process, the schedule on that, but hopefully that'll come to light.
ETA.
Yeah, but something that has been in the works by some good friend of ours are a app to dump all the versions of the Gins onto. So the German, the English, the Aramic, and the Arabic, and then have artificial intelligence comb through that, see where it aligns, and give you the best possible version, the one that makes the most sense.
That would be so great.
And
Yeah.
it's more than doable.
I
I've
think-
spoken to the guys.
Yeah.
It's in the works.
Yeah. I think it may be worth expanding on this in a different episode. However, the point that I'm trying to make is I think with our with our book, so if you go to the Ginza Rabba, and you compare it with the holy books of other religions,
Yeah.
for the purpose of this conversation, let's take the Bible. There's something very quickly you notice that sticks out between the two. The Bible, most of it occurs on earth, if not the whole thing, because it starts with in the beginning
Yeah.
of Genesis
Yeah.
and ends with Revelations.
Mhm.
So the whole, actually, I've had the pleasure of reading the Bible many times, and I actually can't think of any part of the Bible where it describes things that have not happened on earth,
That's an interesting take, and yeah, I think you are right.
right?
Yeah.
Now, contrast that with the Ginza Rabba.
Yeah.
The Ginza Rabba has a lot of mythology in it.
Yeah.
The Mandaic mythology,
Yeah.
in terms of how he communicates with the angels,
Yeah. Even Ziwa.
Hebel Ziwa, and how the angels, Al-Malki wal-Uthri, and how they communicate with one another, and what's the relationship between
And
them.
how the world of darkness was
The world of
tamed.
darkness, how it was tamed, shown like they waged war against them. So 80% of it, well, not 80% of it, but a large chunk of it is
Yeah.
about things that haven't happened on Earth.
Yeah.
Now that is really important, because if I'm talking about something that's happened on Earth, it doesn't matter if it was 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
If I say the man walked there, the man walked there, right? It might be an allegory for something, but the man walked there.
Yeah.
There's only one way to take it.
Yeah.
If I say هي بالزيوة اتحارب ويا روها وحبسها, he imprisoned her.
No, that needs some interpretation.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, because clearly the people who compiled the Ginza didn't put it there for fun.
Yeah.
They put it there for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the reason? And I asked an Ishkenda once, I said to him, what is
What's the
this?
purpose of it? Yeah.
What is that? Like me as a lay Mandaean, an English speaker reading this, what do you expect me to interpret from that? What's supposed to be my takeaway from that? I'm sure it means something.
Yeah.
Surely. But what? And he goes, it's a long story. I didn't get the answer from him because he's like, it needs like a sit down.
But I feel like even when you go through that sit down, you probably won't get the answer you were looking for.
I don't want to jump the gun and say yes or no on that. But there's a point to make here, which is the language will also inevitably help you on the religious front.
Yeah.
Because if you know how to speak Mandaic and read and write Mandaic, you can read your holy book in the original language and not just the Ginza.
Yeah.
Because to the best of my knowledge, only 3 of our books have been translated into English, which are arguably the 3 most important books in our religion, which is the Ginza Rabba, Darashat Yahya, which here means Darasat Yahya, the teachings of John the Baptist, and the Haran Gwaita, which talks about our alleged mass migration from the area of Israel, Palestine to what is now modern day Iraq and Iran.
And you say alleged.
Yeah, because there's people who say we never came from the Israel-Palestine area, that we've made this up. Just a story that we put in there to give ourselves legitimacy. That's a theory that's out there. So
From Mandaeans or non-Mandaeans?
both.
Okay, wow.
From both academics, non-Mandaean academics, and Mandaeans themselves. Now there seems to be a little bit of a reconciliation between the two, where they're saying we're not from the Israel-Palestine area.
We're from the Babylonian.
Yes,
Okay.
Mesopotamian area.
Yeah.
And then a small group of whatever they were from that Israel-Palestine area migrated to Iraq, and that's how that story of the migration made its way into the general corpus of Mandaean literature.
Okay.
The point I'm trying to make is, though, those are the only 3 books that
That we
have been
have.
translated into English.
Yeah.
And there's other books that are also very important in our religion that haven't been translated.
See, but for instance, with the Ginza more specifically, because
Yeah.
that's the most relevant. For instance, when I began reading it, the first 10, 20 pages, it was all, as you said, universal things,
Yep.
pre-existence of even Earth.
Yep.
And what I was looking for was different, right? For instance, what I was looking for is more of a teachings of life, right? So, for instance, you read the Bible,
Yes.
and you know good and well. There's a lot of teachings and a lot of things that you can align to your life.
Absolutely.
And lessons, and you go, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is a lesson that's been taught here. You know what I mean? And you go, okay, this is relevant.
Yeah.
Now, what I wanted to do is establish relevance. And in those, obviously, I didn't read the whole thing, but I didn't find that relevance. Not yet. And it deterred me because it was so hard to understand. And that's why I think these applications that will be coming out in the future will help you so much more to understand it and
I think
resonate with it.
Yeah, I think the common consensus is that once you understand the language and you read it in the original Mandaic, it gains a lot more meaning that it didn't previously have.
Okay.
I think that's the consensus. Whether that's true or not, I'll get back to you when I learn to speak Mandaic.
See, but that I think we need to be able to understand it in English before we go understanding it in Mandaic, because as we said, the Mandaic, it's coming, but it's a fair few steps away. So before people... Look, maybe not for you. You're a genius and you can learn
relax,
Mandaic very
man.
quickly.
Relax.
No, but for those learning, it's a different story. Okay, but for some people that are, you know what I mean, they want to know about the religion, they're not so keen on the language, they should still have an avenue of being able to learn it. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
be able to communicate it as well.
I wanted to learn the language before I became... I'm not saying became religious, but like I said earlier on this episode, I used to be like staunchly atheist.
Yep.
I wanted to start learning Mandaic back when I was atheist.
Okay.
Yeah. Because for me, learning the language was never about religion. And now
that's fair enough. So
now
you're
it is
more for culture than for religion.
Now it is somewhat.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember a friend of mine one day, he asked me, he said, hey, you know, like you come to the Mendi and you do work and you try and get involved in all that. This is back when I used to go around saying, I am atheist, I don't believe in God, angels, religion, or anything like that. He said, you say that you're atheist, right? And I said, yep. And he said, but you're at the Mendi like all the time. And I said, well, yeah, I'll try. He goes, well then, with respect, why are you here? And I said to him, that's a very good question. This fellow was, you know him, but I'm not going to say his name here. He was quite young at the time, so it was quite a question for someone of that age. And I said to him, you know what? I asked him, I may not believe in God, but I believe in our people. For me, at the time, I couldn't wrap my head around something that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
Now that's different. But I told him what I can see every day is the Mandaeans that are in front of me. Yeah. I come every day and I see them and I see what they're capable of and I see the good work that they do and I say, man, surely we're destined for something more. Yeah. This is getting a bit philosophical now, but that's my opinion. I look at the group and I say, this can't be it. It has to be that this is only the beginning. Yeah. This such a talented, intelligent, passionate, kind-hearted group of individuals, this cannot be the ceiling for them. If anything, this is the foundation. These people, they're destined for so much more.
As we said previously, it's miraculous. And
yes.
It's for a reason that we've survived this long. And I tell my little siblings, I go to them, just think about it, okay? This has led over thousands of years, hundreds of generations for you to be here today. The sacrifices of your ancestors, of their people, just so you can be here. You don't know what it cost for you to be here. And then
that's huge.
Obviously,
it's so big, man.
It's massive.
So big. You don't know what it costs for you to be here.
Yeah. And you have to realize that it is important. I should hold on to this.
Yeah.
I was born into this. I was lucky enough to be born into this. It's not just be born into this. For you to be born, as Gary Vee said, it's 1 in 4 billion or something chance for you to be born.
And this is what came out?
Don't be depression.
Yeah.
But even more unique, you're born into this particular faith with these set of people at this particular time. Now, you know what I mean? You could take it as, oh, it is what it is, and I'll just live my ordinary routine life in this pretty bland Western society and just do mundane things.
Mundane things or Mandaean things?
Mundane things. The mundane things, they're not too bad. Shush, you know?
Yeah.
Or you could do some self-discovery. You know what I mean? We are all about
agree.
knowledge.
I think that's probably. I think that's a good topic to dive into for the next episode.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm Mandaean.
Mm-hmm.
I've been born into this community. I've been born into this group. I didn't ask to be born here.
Yeah.
Why, to put it bluntly, why should I care?
I think we'll leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that. And then next episode, take it from the top.
All right. See you then.
Amazing.